At the heart of the American Tech Workforce Act are three reforms, and they're not minor tweaks. They're sweeping changes designed to flip the current system on its head. First up, the salary floor for H-1B visa holders. Right now, it's set at $60,000, a figure that critics argue is outdated and allows big companies to pay foreign workers much less than their American counterparts. Banks's proposal? Jack that minimum up to $150,000. That's more than double the current threshold. The thinking here is that if companies have to pay foreign talent such a high salary, they'll be less tempted to outsource or bring in workers just to save money. Instead, they'll have more incentive to hire domestically. Sounds simple, right? But as with most policy changes, the ripple effects could be much more complicated. The second big reform is the elimination of the optional practical training, better known as the OPT program. If you're not familiar, OPT allows international students who graduate from U.S. universities to work in the country for up to 3 years after they finish their studies. For many, it's a bridge between education and employment, a way to gain experience, pay back student loans, and maybe even secure a long-term visa. But Banks argues that OPT gives companies another backdoor to bring in cheaper labor, all while American graduates struggle to land good-paying jobs. By cutting the program entirely, the bill aims to ensure those opportunities go first to U.S. citizens and permanent residents. But again, critics say this could backfire, driving away international students who help fuel research, innovation, and the broader economy. The third major change might be the most controversial. Instead of the current lottery-based system for H-1B visas, the bill proposes something entirely new, a highest bidder model. Imagine it like an auction. Instead of random selection, companies would have to outbid each other to secure visas for their workers. On paper, this could raise the bar, ensuring that only the most valuable, high-paying jobs go to foreign workers. But in practice, some experts worry it could tilt the scales in favor of the wealthiest corporations, locking out startups and smaller companies who can't compete with giants like Google or Amazon. While supporters call it a fair way to stop misuse, opponents fear it could create a system where money talks louder than merit. Now, Senator Banks is making a strong case for these reforms. In a statement, he claimed that corporations have rigged the system to flood the country with what he describes as cheap labor, driving down wages for American workers. His message is straightforward. This bill is about putting American workers first. It's a pitch that resonates with voters who've seen jobs outsourced or who feel the tech boom has left them behind. Banks argues that raising wage floors, cutting programs like OPT, and introducing a pay-to-play system will restore fairness to the job market. Supporters say it's about time someone called out the loopholes in the current system. But of course, not everyone sees it the same way, and the backlash has already begun. On the flip side, critics of the American Tech Workforce Act warned that it could hurt more than it helps. For one, doubling the H-1B salary floor to $150,000 could make it impossible for smaller companies or startups to hire specialized talent, especially in areas like artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, or biotech, fields where American workers are often in short supply. Some analysts argue that the bill may unintentionally push innovation abroad, as talented workers choose countries with more accessible immigration policies. Others say eliminating OPT could discourage international students from even coming to U.S. universities in the first place, which could mean fewer global connections and less revenue for American schools. The bottom line? Critics say the bill risks throwing out the baby with the bathwater. Let's pause for a moment and consider the numbers. The H-1B program currently brings in about 85,000 workers each year. That might sound like a lot, but in the context of the entire U.S. workforce, it's a small slice. Tech companies argue that these workers are essential, filling gaps in STEM fields where domestic supply falls short. And when it comes to OPT, more than 200,000 students benefit from it annually, many of whom contribute to major research projects and help U.S. companies stay globally competitive. If these reforms were passed tomorrow, the impact would be immediate and widespread, not just for workers, but for universities, companies, and entire industries that rely on a steady flow of international talent. Supporters of the bill counter that the U.S. doesn't have a talent shortage, it has a wage problem. They argue that companies claim they can't find enough American workers, but in reality, they don't want to pay competitive salaries. By raising the H-1B wage floor, the idea is to force companies to invest in American workers, training, and long-term career development. The elimination of OPT, meanwhile, is framed as leveling the playing field for U.S. graduates, many of whom are already saddled with student debt and struggling to find entry-level jobs in tech. It's a narrative that appeals to fairness and economic patriotism, tapping into broader debates about globalization and the role of corporations in shaping labor markets. As with any major policy proposal, the path forward is uncertain. The American Tech Workforce Act is still just a bill, and it faces an uphill climb in Congress. Immigration and labor policy have always been hot-button issues, and with strong lobbying from the tech sector, any attempt to overhaul H-1B or OPT will spike fierce debate. Some lawmakers may view the bill as too extreme, while others may try to negotiate middle ground reforms. But one thing is clear. This proposal has already injected new energy into a long-running conversation about the balance between welcoming global talent and protecting American workers. Whether or not it passes, it's a sign that big changes could be on the horizon. So what does all this mean for everyday Americans? If you're a college grad hoping to break into tech, you might see this as a chance for more opportunities and higher wages. If you're an employer, especially in a smaller company, you might worry about losing access to the global talent pool. And if you're an international student dreaming of building a career in the U.S., these changes could close doors that were once wide open. Ultimately, the American Tech Workforce Act raises tough questions about who gets access to opportunity, how wages are set, and what kind of economy we want to build for the future. It's a debate that won't end anytime soon, and one that will shape the future of American innovation, jobs, and competitiveness for years to come. Picture this. You're sitting at your desk, scrolling through headlines, and suddenly you see that a U.S. senator wants to completely change how some of the country's biggest tech companies hire workers. That's right. At the National Conservatism Conference in Washington, Senator Jim Banks unveiled a bold proposal called the American Tech Workforce Act, and it's already stirring up big conversations in Silicon Valley, on Capitol Hill, and across households where questions about wages, jobs, and immigration are never far away. Banks is making a powerful claim that corporations are using immigration programs to cut corners, underpay workers, and sideline American talent. But what exactly is in this bill, and how could it reshape the American tech workforce? Let's break it all down in plain English, because whether you're in tech or just curious about how laws shape our economy, this one matters.